Hey there, Live Like Your Nail Color Gals. It's spring. Yes, spring officially started on March 20th, 2023. I'm still amazed and delighted each spring when the weather warms up, the daylight's longer, the trees are budding, and the flowers pop open with color. It's like the natural world is saying with a big smile, hey, there's hope for new growth and possibilities. Look at what we're cooking up here. What about you? That's why I decided that in the spirit of spring, today I'm kicking off a 5-part episode miniseries called Renew for Resilience. I've picked 5 super common aspects of everyday life that I know you can relate to. Because here's what I truly believe. If you and I gave each area a boost this spring, we would boost our resilience to whatever comes our way. We'd be more prepared, strong, buoyant, durable, feisty, and quick to recover in this crazy demanding world. And that makes it worth some time to boost our resilience. But first, before we dive into our first episode in this series, do you know your nail color persona and what it reveals about you? I have a quick quiz that will tell you it's super easy, fun, and spot on according to lots of my guests. Just go to livelikeyournailcolor.com and click on What's My Nail Color Persona. It'll be in the top right corner or it might even pop up in front of you. Answer a few quick questions, and in your results, discover your specific nail color persona, your built-in strengths, and how to tap into those strengths when ship happens. Again, go to livelikeyournailcolor.com. Now, let's get started with this mini-series.
Tired of so much chip happening? Discouraged by so much downer news? Weary from chronic crisis? Don't let the chips keep you down. Welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast, where the tips of your fingers and toes are ready to inspire you to not give up and to keep creating the business, career, and life you want. In each episode, we flip the chip and let our fun nail color with that crazy fun name cheer us on to remember our strengths, embrace the power of choice, see life as an adventure, and know resilience is only a touch-up or change-up away. Get ready for a good time and a good laugh with your host, Mary Foley.
Welcome back, Live Like Your Nail Color Gals. Are you tired of the chaos and clutter in your home? Do you ever wish someone could just come in and make it go away? We have all answered yes to these questions because, heck, life is busy and it seems to require a lot of stuff. But stuff can weigh us down and take up too much of our precious physical, mental, and emotional space. And that's why spring cleaning is the first topic that sprang to my mind for the Renew for Resilience episode mini-series. And my gal pal, Ashley Stefanko, owner of Home Reimagined, well, she's going to help us out. And she has a great motto, and that is less stuff, more life. She's an amazing professional organizer who I've personally hired more than once because I'm not embarrassed to say I've needed professional help to get through all the stuff. But what I love is that Ashley is not an unrealistic minimalist, but she's definitely an advocate for keeping what you need, ditching what you don't, and making it easy and practical for you to find ways or find what you're looking for when you need it. Because, boy, I don't like to waste time doing that. I have learned so much from her about making decluttering doable. And then I get immediate happy dance results, which I also love. That I thought, okay, if I'm going to start out this whole Renew for Resilience series, I'm going to do it on spring cleaning, and I'm going to ask Ashley to share with us about decluttering and really kind of like re-inspire us to do it for this spring. So Ashley, welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks, Mary. Happy to be here.
I am too. Okay, so I don't want to put you on the spot here, but you know, you do have so much expertise, and it's really been fun. If you can ever say decluttering is fun, it's fun once you get going. All right, how about that? And you start seeing some progress, then it kind of juices you up. Before though we get to all that, I always ask my guests, do you know this? What is your nail color persona? And did it nail you? Because, I know you took my quiz, what's your nail color persona? So I'm so curious, of the 5 nail color personas, which one did it say is you? And did it nail you?
So actually it did. I am definitely a glitter gal on my toes, but always have my toes painted in fun colors. However, my fingernails, mostly due to what I do for a living every day, is definitely Naked Nelly because I hate when chip happens.
We all hate when chip happens. I love that, right? See, this is also another practical aspect. This is right here, practicality right here. I'm not putting it on my fingers because all the stuff that I do with my hands, and you're in stuff, other people's stuff, sometimes grimy stuff, I'm sure. But I can tell you still want to have a good time. So that's why you got the glitter gal going on your toes. That's hilarious. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So did you feel like the descriptions of Naked Nelly and Glitter Gal, there were aspects of that you really resonated with?
Oh, yes. Definitely nailed it to a T.
When it comes to Glitter Gal, though, that kind of surprised me a little bit because I don't necessarily have experienced you as someone who wears a lot of glitter or wears a lot of bling. So what aspect of Glitter Gal was the thing that resonated with you?
I think just mostly the sparkle and enthusiasm, as it said in the descriptions. And I do love to see others shine as well. So that was pretty spot on because I love helping people.
I love
bringing
that.
out their best.
Yeah. Yeah. So often with the nail color personas, it's like at first, like, what does it say about me and how people think of me and how I show up? But actually, it also says how you interact with others and how you see others. That's great. All right. I love it. All right. It's going to help us make us shine today and maybe spiff some things up. Do you have, though, first, a favorite color, nail color? And did that say anything about you that you're like, yep, that's spot on?
Again, I've got a twofer. I'm a pink and purple kind of gal. I love it. It reminds me of summertime. And it's just funny. Like it's the same thing, like spot on, warm, chatty, friendly, and fun. I get along easily with other people. I did find it was funny. The hotter the pink that I prefer, the chattier I am. So it's definitely, it depends on the situation, obviously, but that is pretty funny too.
So for the pinks and purples, do you tend to go lighter or darker?
Definitely darker, hot pink, darker purple.
Yep. So here's what I'm thinking. You said that you really remind you of summer, right? So what do you do? I know you love to go to the beach in the summer. You make it frequently, even if it's like a day trip, right? And so
Yes.
I can imagine you're out on the beach, you're walking, or maybe you're sitting there, with a friend or maybe some of your kids, and you're just talking, right? You're like in a much more relaxed, chatty mode.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Did nail you. All right. So let's talk about, I almost hesitated to call it spring cleaning because it was like, all these things I got to do. But I like the idea of decluttering better. But here's the thing. I want to start with the whole idea of what difference does it make when we declutter and reorganize our most used physical spaces? And I guess in that, are there any unintended or surprising benefits that your clients have experienced? They didn't think of it first.
Well, I think in general, spring cleaning or spring organizing is just kind of the renewal of your space and your just mental feeling. The weather is getting warmer, flowers are blooming, and it's my favorite season. So maybe that's just me. But typically, people just feel better after they organize their space. And studies show that the physical space directly affects their mental health, and it has both emotional and physical benefits. So it really just having an organized space in general just sets the tone for your day, right? So is it going to be a chaotic morning running around yelling at the kids to find their shoes? Or is it going to be, a little bit more peaceful? And obviously there's one choice is better than the other for that.
Yeah.
As people head in their day.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And people just in general, just less frustrated because they can find things they want in a timely manner. And so that obviously helps, just with the stress of your everyday. And having an organized space, people just feel less depressed and more peaceful because they just love their homes and surroundings. Just having a nice feeling at the end of the day, walking in the door after a busy day, it should bring serenity and not stress. And really, it's just, adding more fun into life. So instead of wasting your weekends organizing, cleaning your house and picking up your house, having an organized house means just have less more time to spend activities with loved ones, doing fun things.
Yeah, I didn't think of that at first when you said it because when things are more organized and decluttered, not only can you kind of walk in whatever space, like it might be the end of the day, it might be you work out of home even, but you gotta go, I don't have to clean, I don't have to take the time to clean all that up. And then and I can do other things instead. Yeah. So I know though it's easy to let things pile up. It's easy to not put things away all the time. It's easy to like, oh, I need to get to that pile. Just saying, I have a pile right now in my office sitting there. It's like taking residence. I should charge it rent. Um, and it bugs me every time. So that idea of serenity, that idea of um less frustration also in finding things, that can drive me bananas. How is the whole series is called Renew for Resilience. How can decluttering and renewing our space increase our personal resilience, like our bounce back when we're maybe not having a great day or something has, happened, chip happens?
Well, it's really about control, right? So when our home is organized and in order, we tend to feel more confident in our abilities to handle all the outside world craziness. And so I feel like it just helps again at the end of the day or in the morning to come from a peaceful home, and then you're kind of ready to tackle the day, what's thrown out at you and all the things that you can't control. And just coming home to a peaceful environment helps recharge your batteries at the end of a busy day. You should feel happy to be home and not dread walking in the front door. And then, just even having activities like friends or family over for dinner or happy hour or something. I have a kind of a 10-minute pickup rule that I like, where someone calls me and says, "Hey, I'll be over in 10 minutes." I can pick up real quick because life gets messy. People's homes aren't perfect all the time, but if you can easily pick up at the end of the day, you're kind of ready for anything at that point.
Yeah, and I don't think people are looking for perfection either when they walk in, but I love the idea of someone walking in and feeling that sense of ease and serenity. And I may know something's out of place, but they don't really, right? So if I'm like, oh, it's an 8 out of 10, it's going to be great, right? For both of us. That's it. That's a really great idea. I love that 10-minute rule. Um, okay, so I know here we've talked about all these benefits. I mean, you've already said, you feel better, you emotionally better, you feel less depressed, you can find stuff more quickly, you can have more time to do things you like more, you can just have a sense of exhale. All these are great, but the reality is we don't really want to declutter or reorganize our space. And even myself, consider myself pretty organized. And I like to do it. I mean, I was kind of like you. I was reading a little bit more like you were ever since you were a young girl. You're like, oh, I really like to clean out stuff and rearrange pantries, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I did some of that too. I don't know, maybe it was like in a chaotic house with 3 other siblings and stuff that was something I could control, right? It might come down to that. But I still tend to make piles and I don't want to deal with them like I was just saying before. So, all right, so you work with a lot of people, a lot of clients. From your experience, what are the most common reasons why we put off dealing with all the stuff? Because doing it is one thing, but getting to the point of being willing to do it is another.
Well, I think time is obviously a huge factor for so many people, especially working moms with families and just busy lives in general. So, if you think about, oh, I have to organize my whole house, that is a very overwhelming statement.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, oh, I'm going to go out and just run a marathon tomorrow. Like it's just unrealistic for so many people. But if you start out with just small chunks of time, and just decide on where you're going to start, how you're going to start, and just make it easy on yourself. So, what I like to do is just, start with your junk drawer or something super easy and set a timer for 20 minutes. And at the end of that, sometimes starting is the hardest part, right? So at the end of that, you can either stop because you've had enough, or it might just be motivating to keep going and find another little space. And so just seeing the pretty quick progress that people can make in a short amount of time, I think is pretty motivating for most people.
I love that idea because time is huge. But what if I open up my junk drawer even and I'm like, oh, like where, like, there's that resistance that seems to kick in right in that moment. There's too much stuff in here. I don't know what to do with all this stuff. Right. So when you're working with a client and they've hired you because they need help, not just another pair of hands, but like another person not attached to their stuff, right? And you just see it as a drawer full of stuff. You've seen a lot of drawers full of stuff, right? Okay. So do you say something to your client in that moment to help them just say, get past that, we're going to empty this out or get started?
Well, it's kind of while I'm there. And so that is a huge step for a lot of people when they need to, hire someone to help them. And so I kind of just start
So you help them.
and they
So
get
let's just
into
start
it.
taking it out, right? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so just, dumping it on the counter and sorting and figuring it out. And the fun part is, finding gift cards and things like that in the junk drawer that's
Oh, yeah.
rewarding that they forgot they had. So so it makes it a little bit easier if someone is there to guide them along.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I've heard this phrase before. Clutter is nothing more than postponed decisions. Do you think that's true?
Oh, totally. And again, a lot of it is involving time and just having the time to do things. But, there's so many micro decisions in organizing. And so, like, do I need this? Do I use it? Where's it going to live? People just tend to shut down and not want to deal with the stuff
Oh, yeah.
until it's super overwhelming or later becomes, a stressful deadline like moving or selling your home. And so it's just easier to just do a little bit at a time and focus on kind of your everyday areas and just get it done. I think people find it like the dread of starting is definitely there, but it's so rewarding and freeing, when people are done with the space. And so I love to see the difference of people at the beginning of the day and the end of the day from, going, being dread their spaces to feeling happy and lighter and loving their home again.
Yeah, that's great. And in the middle, let's face it, it's a messy middle.
It is.
Literally,
It
right?
is
Literally
messy,
messy,
tedious
right?
part.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes.
I think that thing of postponed decisions and 1,000 little decisions, at least it can feel that way. And they are. I mean, I am definitely guilty. This is guilty of that, which is why I have a pile. I've got to look at each. This is a pile of paper. I got to look at each paper. I got to think about what it is. I got to say, should I keep it? Should I not keep it? Then my fear of, well, if I let it go, will I need it again? Right. And yet this pile has been a pile for, okay, like, right, basically a year. Have I needed it? No, right? But I might find a gem in there. That's what I go. I might find something, but I have to think about it. Every single piece of paper and every single thought. But so I just want to bring that up because I think you're doing your clothes closet, let's say, right? And you've helped me with that too. Like, all right, so you take everything out of the closet. That's one thing that you do, and then I've got to look at every single piece, right, and make a decision. And what I found though is this: if I look at it as, all right, I'm just making a decision about one piece of clothing right now. Like, I'm not going to think of all the other decisions, just that one decision, right? And then, does it stay? Does it go? Does it go in the storage? Does it go in like the current, seasons, closet? And I have a couple of decisions, and this is what you're really good at. It's like 1, 2, or 3. That's it. Those are the decisions you get on this piece of clothing. And then I go, okay, I can make that decision. And then sometimes when I can't, then you ask a follow-up question. Like, when was the last time you really used this? Like, and like you're trying to help me actually sort through, which is I think where we get stuck oftentimes by ourselves. All right, particularly if it's a larger project. But and then I'm like, okay, then I move on to the next piece of clothing and I get in a rhythm. What happens is I'm like, oh, I just have 3 decisions. We have 3 options. I can make that decision. And so then the decision making becomes easier. Is that what you find? Or am I just an exceptional student?
We are an exceptional student, but I do find that is very similar to a lot of clients that I work with, where again, it's just starting is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why it's nice that when I help my clients, I kind of keep them focused on track. And so a lot of people when they're trying to organize by themselves, they start in an area and then they find something that goes into another area. It's like, oh, I'll just walk this over here. And then they find something in that area that goes somewhere else. And, they take it over there. So they're kind of all over the place, bebopping around their house and nothing gets done, but they've been busy. And so I help to kind of keep my clients on track and focused too.
I love that. All right. So you talked about time. You talked about, that's a big thing that gets in our way of starting. And then there's just starting and then keep going for the maybe even like even 20 minutes. All right. So all the gals listening to the Live Like You No Color podcast, they're busy, right? They have a lot going on, just like you've said. What spaces, so to make this kind of more manageable, what spaces do you recommend we do first? And how do we start if we're going to do it by ourselves? And you did mention the junk drawer in the 20 minutes, but I'm where would you say anyone overall should start?
I like to start with people's everyday space that affects their life. So I love organizing kitchens because kitchens are, the heart of the home in so many ways. But it really affects cooking dinner. It affects emptying the dishwasher. And so, when things have a home, it's just faster and easier to unload the dishwasher versus, opening a cabinet and things are tumbling down and there's no space to put anything away. And then people's closets, again, are huge. Just saving time getting dressed in the morning because you can find what you're going to wear. You're not bombarded by clothes that are 15 years old that you haven't touched. Bathrooms are huge, laundry rooms, pantries. So many people have expired food and it just takes up so much space. And so then you're also buying duplicates because you don't realize you have stuff. So you can save money by organizing too. So really just have a good handle of what you have and what you use. Everybody has a messy attic and that's like down the road someday, but it really doesn't affect your everyday space and everyday life. And so I really like to start with main areas of people's homes.
Okay. Well, that's what I was thinking too, because you use it all the time. And if you get a little bit more organized, you get decluttered and you're like, okay, I could do a bit more, but I'll benefit every day because I will be using those spaces. So you mentioned kitchens, clothes closets, bathrooms, laundry rooms, pantries. So I guess it's just pick one. Pick the one that you feel like I really want to declutter X, or I just want to feel that I want that space to work better for me. Would be the best thing, it sounds like. Okay, so let's say we pick our kitchen because that's the first thing that you did. All right. And I totally agree. I'm in my kitchen a lot. Okay. Sometimes I'm like, do I just live here? Anyway, so, kitchens have lots of drawers and lots of cabinets and they can have a lots of stuff. Where would you start in the kitchen so it doesn't get overwhelmed?
So typically with kitchens, the idea of organizing is pulling everything out and sorting by category, which could be a little overwhelming with kitchens, especially, if you have a large kitchen. So really it's just seeing everything that you have by category. And so sometimes we'll kind of just do a cabinet at a time, just so it's not so overwhelming. But if people have things everywhere, then, we kind of pull out stuff to categorize. But also too, with kitchens, there's kind of an art and a science to kitchens, and I ask a lot of questions that helps me analyze where stuff should go. Like who does the cooking? Are they right-handed? Are they left-handed? What type of cooking do you do? And so it is a lot of questions, but it helps. I could send someone to the spa for the day and organize their kitchen and they would come back and the kitchen would be organized to me, but not to them. And so everything is customized to how they use the space, which I think is really key. And so many people have kitchen gadgets galore that they don't use, or, maybe they've gotten things as gifts and they just don't use it, or maybe they used to entertain a lot and now they don't as much. And so, the kitchen is really affects a lot of, your everyday life. And so even just things like, do you have any space on your countertops to prep food? Because a lot of times the cabinets are overstuffed. And so things end up on the countertop. And so it's kind of like, working backwards. So clear out the cabinets, take stuff off the counters, have lots of space for the counter. And then again, it just goes back to then it's easier to make dinner because you've got more space.
Yeah, boy, that's really good. I can see why, and I know why things end up on the countertop because of what you just said. I've run out of space. I don't have any space.
And a lot of times too, it's kind of like me coming in there with fresh eyes, thinking about space differently. So again, ask a lot of questions. So like if you have a crab pot in your kitchen, for example, that you use once a year, but it's taking up a lot of space, that's where, we kind of rethink where that needs to live. So maybe that doesn't need to live in the kitchen, even though it's a kitchen item. And so just kind of rethinking the space, coming in with fresh eyes. Again, me asking a lot of questions to figure out how people use the space definitely helps. And getting rid of the kitchen gadgets that people don't use anymore is key too.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of that, "Okay, I'll release it to someone else to enjoy," right? I thought I was gonna use it, not so much. I did that with the juicer one time. I spent good money on the juicer, I started using it, then I realized what a hassle it is to clean that sucker, right? And I was like, "Oh my gosh," and then to figure out what's the combination of fruits and vegetables so it actually tasted good, and, I'm suppose like anything, if I really wanted the end result and I would have figured it out, but it was one of those items when I went, I'm just not into juicing as much as I thought, or I don't want it quite that bad. So I cleaned it up and I don't even think I sold it. I think I just gave it away. Here you go. Right. Kind of, um,
Well,
and
that's the thing. People have aspirational ideas about,
yeah,
juicing or cooking gourmet meals or baking from scratch. And, the reality is that unless you love to do that, it's just not realistic for most people. And so again, that's where you're looking at every single thing, which can be emotionally overwhelming and, somewhat tiring, but having someone there to kind of guide you along definitely helps.
yeah. Okay. So let's just touch on closets, closed closets in particular, right? Because that's a space we use every day. Um, how would you approach that in terms of decluttering and organizing?
So again, typically, the easiest thing to do is just do a little bit at a time. So when I pull clothes out of the closet, typically I try to just limit it to one category or pull some clothes out and sort by category. So we'll kind of look at all the tank tops together. And then, like you said earlier, it's just a little easier to do one category at a time. And so then, you see all your stuff in one spot, which makes it a little easier too. Like, oh, I didn't realize I had 13 black tank tops. And so then we look at like short sleeve, then we look at long sleeve. And so you really are also just putting your own fresh eyes on your wardrobe and see clothes that you love and just haven't seen in a while because it's been buried. Or maybe time has passed and you see a shirt and you're like, that is hideous. Why did I buy that? I would never buy that again or wear it. And so, I kind of help people break it down to like an emotional number, 1 through 10. 10 being you love this shirt, you wear it all the time, it fits good, it looks good. And then 1 is like, oh, that reminds me of my, an ex. I don't need that in my closet anymore. And so that kind of helps people hone their decision-making abilities too, which makes it easier.
Yeah, because I was wondering about, it's easy to identify the clothes you love and you wear all the time. There are some of those where I get to be like, "Yes, and now you need to replace them because you've loved them too much." Okay, but then there are the clothes that I spent good money on, but man, I don't really wear it because it doesn't look as good as it used to, or on me, or the style is not exactly, with it today. And yet I'm like, "But I paid so much money for it," right? And I feel guilty about, like, putting in the pile to give away or donate or something. Help me through that, Ashley. What do I do to get rid of that guilt? Because it's all clearly the guilt in itself is weighing me down.
Well, a lot of it too is, you spent the money is gone. You're not going to recoup the money you spent for it. Kind of lesson learned. On the flip side, a lot of people, have the opposite. Like, oh, this was a really nice shirt, but I got it on sale. It was a killer deal, but I didn't really like it. And so there's just so much emotion and psychology, especially with women and their clothing,
Yeah.
that I love and just talking through things. And so at the end of the day, having the space in your closet is so much more rewarding than, getting rid of a shirt that you might have spent a little too much money on.
Well, and today there's so many consignment shops that if it were in good shape and somewhat in style, I mean, there's some things that are just almost like classic, they last for years. Maybe if I were up for it, I could like, let me see if I can get a little cash out of this and make that part of my new clothing, spring clothing fund or something. I could
Oh, yeah.
gamify it as I like to do. I'm like, oh, and that actually makes me feel good. Like I'm not going to use it, but someone else could. And even if I get like $20 for it or even $10 for it, but if I have 10 of these shirts, I got $100 for something else, that I will love, right? And be a 10. I've done a little bit of that. I certainly have done that more with like other things that are not clothes, pieces of furniture, some lamps or things like that. And that's kind of easier to part with. I would think, oh my gosh, we were going to help my mom through all of her clothes, and every piece of clothing had a story. And
Oh,
I was
yes.
like, I don't want to hear the story. I think we have too many clothes to go through, right? But it just goes to show, like you're saying with women, like these emotional attachments, these memories that we have, or the attachment of, oh, that used to fit, and I don't wear that size anymore, right? I mean,
Yes.
if we've hit a particular weight goal and like, oh, we've dropped 2 dress sizes or something, then we're like, oh yeah, we're letting that go, right? Because I'm gonna make it so that I never go there again. But if it's the other way, you kind of go, oh, I guess I'm never gonna wear that size again. I gotta just. But I think that's also part of this renewal, right? Because I I think of the idea of when we review and therefore renew, like I'm thinking even all the stories and the clothes and the attachments in our closet, and we sort through and we are left with the things that we love, like you said. Love and that kind of energy or that feeling good, that gives us the ability to be resilient, to bounce back, to, when shit happens or not having such a great day or some external circumstance or whatever, well, we just have more energy to deal with it. And I know it sounds kind of woo woo in some ways, but it's just like when you do it, you feel it and you get it.
Oh, totally.
I got another very specific question about a quick tip. And maybe it's not quick. I don't know. But there are situations where you go through, I'm thinking maybe it's the kitchen, but I was even thinking I'm thinking more like my home office, but this might be in somebody's den or something where you got a lot of books. And I'm just going to say that as one example, but it's like you have a lot of stuff you still need to keep, and you need to have it accessible, but you just don't want it to look bad, publicly for yourself or anyone who walks into the home. Just when I say look bad, like the visible looking at all the stuff is really almost like I just want it to be light and clean and like an Instagram photo a bit more. Like how do you get there? What are some tips about making a lot of stuff that you need to access, not necessarily look like a lot of stuff to the visual eye?
Well, I do love a good shelving system with bins. And obviously that wouldn't be in your main living area, but because everyone's home is so different, using the space to its fullest is really key. And so, and that decluttering obviously is the easiest way to organize, because you're really just keeping the stuff that you love. But, you know, clear bins with labels, and labels are key because that tells people where to find things, but also where to put things back. And so, and that's where having good closet systems and pantry systems and laundry room systems and, areas at your guests and you don't see is key to really utilizing all of that. And some people have really good space, they just don't utilize it correctly. And so I can help with, just again, giving new ideas, offering suggestions. And then, it goes back to like everything has a place. And so when you are organized, it's just easier to keep everything neat and tidy and straight and just peaceful.
I love that part you said, and everything has to go back to that place too, which
That's
is a
key.
discipline. Some people are better at that than others, and some people in your household are better at that than others, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's just, again, like creating new habits, training everybody in your home, especially your kids, to kind of new systems and where everything is, so they're not asking mom all the time, also is really helpful.
I love that. So a shelving system with bins and labeled. All right. So my mind's already thinking about where I can do that anew in my space. Because even this thing of having a fresh colored bin, right? That and they're all kind of coordinated versus some mishmash of different kind of storage bins or whatever, and then putting those in my closet and like all I mean, I'm about to switch out because we live in Virginia, so we're mid-Atlantic. We have 4 seasons, which means that we're going into spring, which means I want to get my winter clothes and my colder weather clothes kind of out of my immediate view, so I don't have to sort through all those while I'm looking for clothes I'm going to currently wear. And I was just thinking, well, as I do that, I could put like all my shoes in nice colored bins and know like, oh, those are my, winter shoes or whatever. And it just, I don't know, even those colors kind of make me just brighten up. So I love that. I mean, it could be all
The
white.
colors are great. Yes, the colors are great. I do like clear bins because it's easier to see inside. And
Oh,
some
yeah.
people get the colored bins that are like Christmas green and red or
Yeah.
Halloween black and orange. But then what happens if you have more Halloween stuff and then you can't find the bin and then it gets all crazy whacked out?
Oh,
So
no.
I just like simple clear bins.
Simple's
I
better.
know the horror.
No, but that's actually a really
the
good
simple
point.
clear bins.
Okay.
Everything is just easier, a little bit easier on the eye too.
Yeah. And if you have labels, you can always switch out labels. So that's
Yes.
a cool thing too. Okay, cool. All right. So here's the thing. We've talked a lot about like the benefits of renewing your space, the ones particularly you do more easily, or I should say, the ones you use more often. There's a lot of benefits, obviously. We talked some about getting over the hurdle of starting and just and get going. And where to start. Like pick one area that you use the most and start there. I know that, all of this, if we're going to use renewing our space to kick up our resilience, it first starts with a decision. I mean, that's the bottom line. We have to decide individually that we're going to renew our space. We're going to take a shot at this. But the process of decluttering is something that we could get help with. And I know you and I have worked together several times. You've, particularly in moves as well. Could you paint a picture of the process that you do with clients a little bit more? You've kind of hinted at it. You gave us some ideas, but I want to get an idea of the process so that every gal listening can get a mental vision of what it looks like to have expert help, because we do not have to do the process alone. Only what we do have to do alone is the decision to start it and do it. We could use your, 20 minutes at a time and then that's it. But a lot of times that kind of gets us going, but maybe there's a bigger project and we want to speed it up. I know that was true for me, which is why I hired you. Because give us that picture of how you work with clients and to understand, if we have a guide on the side, what that looks like.
Sure. Well, first off, I offer a 15-minute free phone consultation, and that just helps me chat with people, get an idea of their organizing goals and challenges. And then at the appointment, we do a little tour of the home so I can get an idea of their space that they have. And some people know where they want to start, and some people just have no idea. And so sometimes me coming in again with fresh eyes, I can see bottleneck problem areas that sometimes result in organizing multiple spaces at a time. And so, we'll kind of pick an area to start and then we kind of jump right in. I don't feel like people need to get ready for me to come. I kind of want to see the mess as it is in everyday life. And so, I kind of see my role is to come into your home with no judgment and guide you through the organizing process and keep you focused on track. And so, some people are worried that organizers are going to come in and throw everything away, which is not the case with me. I don't make decisions of what people get rid of and what they keep. But I do ask challenging questions. For example, I had a couple, they had a pretty small kitchen and they had 2 people who drink coffee and they had 67 mugs. in their small kitchen.
Because
And
they probably never
so,
counted them, right? I mean, I don't go around counting my
no,
mugs, right?
no, I made them count them. So they realize that's where categorizing everything together, really helps get a visual of, oh, wow, look at all these mugs that I have. And so they were able to pare down about half, and some were memories. So they went to the memory bin. There's no need to keep those in the kitchen. And some were favorites, some were given as gifts or received as gifts. And so obviously,
Maybe they should
there's a
be
little
given
more
as gifts.
sentimental attachment. Yeah. And some people got like free mug from a bank. So obviously, there's different emotions with the different mugs. And so they were able to, really look at the mugs that they had and keep what they wanted. And then we made space for them. And that makes a huge difference. 67 cut down by about half, that saves a ton of space in the kitchen. And so, the kind of the show, and it's funny, right? It's funny that people have 67 mugs. And so I try to make light of it and have a good time with it. So people, I just ask a lot of questions that helps me analyze where things go. It's just amazing what two people who are focused on an area can accomplish in, a half day or a day. And so that's really the astonishing part, is that it's a pretty quick process. I work pretty quickly. And so, obviously it depends on people's decision-making abilities too, and how fast they do that. And I've had some people hemming and hawing over getting rid of paper clips, and other people are just ready to get rid of stuff. And so that makes a big difference. And so I kind of, I'm very gentle with some people, and some people I'm a little bit more firm with. So it kind of just depends on, can read people pretty quickly, and it depends on, their motivation too. It's funny because there's so much psychology involved with it, but that's the part I really love. Because there's just so much emotion with people and their stuff, whether people grew up very well off and had a lot of stuff, or not so well off. And so having stuff was important because it was, kind of a status symbol. But it's so fascinating to me. And then at the end of the day, it's just whatever the client wants as far as their own comfort level. Most people are not extreme minimalists. That's just not realistic for a lot of people, which is fine. But it just depends on people's space too.
Yeah. I love the fact that also you were like, okay, in the decision-making process, you end up creating a lot of things you're going to throw away. And then there were some things to give away. I remember that. Like, I wanted to donate things that like, I'm not going to use the 67 mugs, but I'm going to use these 30. By the way, I was thinking, oh my gosh. Okay. So that couple could have coffee or tea or whatever. They could use one mug a day each for 30 days and still have a few left over. But there is this thing about coffee mugs. They do have babies or something, and they multiply in your cabinet. I'm pretty convinced of that. Okay. So anyway, I love the fact that you kind of like, okay, so all the trash, you took the trash, we'll take the trash out. Like, and you even said, I'll take where you want to go. You want to take these to Goodwill? Okay, I'll drop those off. I had one time I had all these papers that needed to be shredded because they were kind of just documents I didn't want. I had some personal information and such. And so you took that to shred. It was when I was moving. Okay. So I had saved boxes and boxes. So some of this was old taxes and that kind of thing. And you were like, oh my gosh, I had like 80 pounds or something like that it was a ridiculous amount. But I love the fact that, that goes into the shred pile. And then you're like whisked away. Like, it was, in my mind, it was done. Right. And I loved that. So that was one of the benefits I thought of having you there. That I had.
Oh yeah. And I do take donations away at the end of the day, just because once people make the decision, I want it out.
Yeah.
And so I don't want it lingering around in people's trunks and they never get there. And then there's a chance for it to creep back in the house.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, the other thing you did was I had never used Facebook Marketplace or any kind of online selling place. Okay. So I know Facebook Marketplace is known quite well, but I knew of it. I had looked at stuff on it myself. I had never bought anything there, but I mean, that's pretty common today. But then I was learning about other platforms that you could sell it on. But then you're like, okay, so here's how you do it. And again, I had furniture, so I knew furniture had some value, and it was way easier and I didn't have a truck or anything. So it was like, if I could have someone come to like put outside, right outside my home and buy it and take it away. I got a twofer. I got money and I got it hauled off. So, but then you like, we'll take several pictures, have these descriptions, put these, measurements. Like you made it like, okay, I'll do that. And then as I started looking at other postings, I was like, these are so lame. Like they don't tell me what I need to know, right? Kind of thing. No wonder it's still here for sale, right? And I sold pretty much everything. And since then, when I would even have the littlest thing. Oh, here's the funny thing. I ended up buying a new lamp for my office. And then I got it home. It was in good condition. Everything was good. All that transaction. I got it home. I'm like, okay, now this really is too short. I really miscalculated, even though I had the measurements. I said, this is going to work. I put it back on Facebook Marketplace, sold it again, and somebody bought it. I was like, this is a wonderful thing. Okay, so
it is. It makes it so easy.
Yeah. And that's what I did. So I started to gamify it in that way for me. Like I'm looking around now going, well, what else can I sell that I really don't use? It's like money laying around, And so anyway, I just throw that in there because that ended up being, again, the fun thing, but you opened my eyes to all of that and you demystified it. So I'm always grateful for you for that. And when people say, I need to get organized like your home, I'm like, well, here's someone I think you should talk to. Which, by the way, makes me think, all right, you walked us through the process, but I'm visualizing that when you said it about you walking into someone's space. Can you do this virtually? There's a part of me that says you can, a part of me says you can't, but I don't know.
Well, yes, actually, virtual really just started since COVID.
Yeah.
And it's a very different process, especially for me. I'm used to being hands-on help and, pulling stuff out for people and, doing part of the physical part of decluttering. Virtual organizing is just a lot different. It's more discussion and talking about people's spaces and what they envision. And, they send me pictures and videos and things like that, measurements, which definitely helps. But it's more of the accountability, like maybe at the end of the day, like I give people tasks and then check back with them the end of the day or the next week and kind of keep them on track. But it's rewarding in a different kind of way. And it's great for people, I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and I will travel all over, but for people who don't need as much hands-on help, they just need more guidance. It's a great option.
Okay, that's good to know. And you're right, because I've seen some other services that we just only assumed could happen when they physically come to your home or physically are showing up at some place, now being done virtually. And as people get more and more used to using, whether it's their phone or they're using an iPad or something similar to that that you can be in touch and you can show stuff and you can talk real time. So I think that opens up that possibility. If there's one tip, Ashley, as we wrap up, that you could leave us with today to inspire us to renew our space for resilience, what's that one tip you would give us for sure to remember?
Well, one is very hard, I must say, but I think a lot of it is, don't overthink it and get rid of the guilt. That's probably the biggest. Two, I'll do two.
Okay. Over delivered here. Uh-huh.
Yes. And don't start with the sentimental stuff because that's hard. So save that for last.
Okay.
So maybe three.
So don't overthink it. Let go of the guilt is one, right? Or is that one and two?
That could be one.
That could be one. I thought so. Okay. Don't overthink it and let go of the guilt. And then the other is that don't start with the sentimental. Start with the easy.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Start with the easy. All right. That sounds good. I also know that you have you ran I think it was last year a declutter challenge where you take like 20 minutes in different parts of your most used spaces. Could you describe that real quick? How that works?
Sure. We did this year too. And every week we just kind of start with a different space. And so it's just a guideline that people can follow along if they want to tackle the projects themselves on the weekends. And so we did different, just again, start with the spaces in your home that you affect your everyday life: kitchens, closets, bedrooms. And then we had kind of a miscellaneous.
And then you have a checklist that you did, I think, for each one of those.
We do. I have a Declutter Quicklist that is on my website. It's free download. And it just kind of breaks down the easy categories. And so you just go through and check things off your list. I mean, it gets as simplified as like, nail polish. Go through your nail polish and figure out which ones you don't wear. Or, if you get your nails done, you don't really use nail polish at your home, then that's an easy thing to get rid of too.
Yeah.
Old magazine, coupons, just stuff like that. The little easy stuff is a great place to start.
I love that. I love it. All right. So let's talk nail color again, since you mentioned nail color. If you could create a name, because, this is your next job, for example, like is to name nail colors. But if you could create a name of a nail color to inspire us to declutter our spaces and renew them for resilience, what would that name be?
Well, thinking about this has kind of been my own motto this spring myself, as I'm kind of doing a spring refresh in my own home. I call it GSD, get stuff or be done. And it would definitely be a hot pink with glitter.
Yeah, absolutely. A hot pink with glitter on your toenails. I love that. GSD. Yeah, I get it. Get stuff done. Right. Then
Yes.
that's kind of like, let's just do it. Right. Let's start.
Yes, definitely.
That's great. Great. And I love the fact that you walk your talk. You say like, I want to do a spring refresh on my own home right now. And you go through the same thing that all of us do.
Oh yeah, especially with kids and just you don't organize once and you're done, right? Because you live in your home and you
Yeah.
enjoy your home.
Oh, yeah.
And so sometimes, things get accumulated over time and it's a good idea to do a refresh, kind of touch up maintenance every once in a while too.
Great. I love it. All right. For those who would want to find out more about you, to reach out, maybe connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I've got lots of before and after pictures on my website, on Facebook page and Instagram. It's homereimaginedrva.com. And then I've got some tips and tricks on the Home Reimagined Pinterest page, which Pinterest is a blessing and a curse, right? Because, some people want the Pinterest perfect pantry, and we can definitely do that and, have a great time at the Container Store. And then sometimes that's just not realistic for a lot of people, and they just want to use what they've got and, have more of a realistic approach to things. And I mentioned before my free Declutter Quicklist on my website. So just quick and easy categories and a good place to start your decluttering journey. You can sign up for my e-newsletter there as well. And then people can go to my website and book a call with me to chat about their organizing challenges and see how I can help them.
Cool. All right. I will make sure to put all the links to all those places, social, your website, the decluttering checklist, book a call, all in the show notes. But I want everyone to know that your website is homereimaginedrva.com. And I know the RVA is really important because if you just did homereimagined.com, you will not find Ashley. But RVA is for Richmond, Virginia. For those who are not in the Richmond, Virginia area, you're like, what? Why you got those 3 letters on the end? That's why. But I love that you're not limited to that as well. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your expertise. Thank you for just kind of reinvigorating us to go, yeah, let me not just spruce up for other people to look at our spaces, our most used spaces especially, but it's really for us, for our own resilience, for our own sense of letting go of some of the mental and emotional clutter so that we can be not only just our best selves every day and live, but also when chip happens, we have more of a resource to be resilient. So thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you, Mary.
And now for the after party I call Flip the Chip, where I take a few moments to highlight something my gal pal shared that can help us all flip a challenge or a difficulty that's holding us back into something more positive that helps us move forward. What I want to highlight today are Ashley's 2 overall tips to get started with decluttering and organizing your most used spaces. Tip number 1, don't overthink it and let go of the guilt. I roared when I saw the phrase, wait, let me overthink this. It's so easy to think about everything that's involved in decluttering and organizing your most used spaces. It's even easier to feel bad about yourself that you haven't done it already. So stop, just stop. Don't try to reason with yourself. Don't attempt to justify your past behaviors, and definitely stop beating the chip out of yourself. Thinking about anything more than the decision to start is not going to help you. Instead, focus on Ashley's second tip. Tip number 2, start with something easy. So first you got to start. That's the very next best step. Action redirects all that ping-ponging in your heart and head into something more constructive. Pick just one space that you use every day. A space that feels easier than others to declutter. A space that would excite you to be renewed, refreshed, and reorganized and done. Consider your clothes closet, dresser, bathroom, home office space if you have one, or just your junk drawer, which chances are in your kitchen and you hunt for things in there at least once a week. And whether it's before or after you start decluttering, you can also use your nail color to cheer you on. Simply put on a new color, fingers or toes, and give it the name GSD. Get stuff done, as Ashley suggested. Or maybe GCD, get chip done. So that every time you look at your fingers or toes, you're reminded that you can get decluttering done one space at a time, and you will experience more energy and renewal because of it. You can make good choices to keep creating the career, business, and life you want, one step, one nail color at a time. I look forward to being with you next time on the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast. Ready to live and laugh more? Know a friend who could use some of that too? Then subscribe at liveLikeYourNailColor.com or your favorite podcast app and share this episode right now with the person who popped into your mind. Together, let's flip the chip to be stronger, smarter, and happier.